Hello everyone, welcome to Dental Shots. If you didn't subscribe for our channel, kindly subscribe now. We are going to see 10 MCQs with detailed discussion. The biopsy specimen of the lower lip salivary gland show a replacement of parenchymal tissue by lymphocytes. A patient also had a xerostomia and keratoconjunctivitis sicca. These findings are indicative of which of the following? Options: lymphoma. In lymphoma, you won't see a lower lip involvement, because in lymphoma mostly it will involve the tonsil and hard palate intraorally. It is a head and neck tumor which is involving primarily the lymph nodes. If at all, it will be in the tonsil and hard palate. Okay, so the lymphoma is not the right answer. Next is Conn's disease. Conn's disease is the granulomatous inflammation of the GIT. In addition, intraorally there will be an aphthous ulcer, not a lower lip salivary gland replaced with the lymphocytes. So the B is also not answer. Mumps you don't have xerostomia, keratoconjunctivitis sicca. So mumps is not the right answer. Sjogren's syndrome, the classical sign or xerostomia and keratoconjunctivitis sicca in the primary Sjogren's syndrome. So the D is the answer. Why not E? E as mucus extravasation phenomenon. The mucus extravasation phenomenon will be occurred when there is a small injury to the duct of the salivary gland. That also it will not be replaced with the lymphocytes. Okay, in addition, the patient will not present you with the xerostomia and keratoconjunctivitis sicca. So the answer is D, Sjogren's syndrome. Next question. A patient seeks a help for recurrent palatal pain. She presents with multiple punctate ulcers in the hard palate that was preceded by tiny blisters. Her lesion typically heal in about 2 weeks and reappear during stressful time. She has what? So aphthous ulcer will be there, but they are saying it is like occurring in the hard palate. Okay, aphthous ulcer will not occur in the hard palate. It will occur only in the non-keratinized mucosa. It will not occur in the gingiva or hard palate, which is the keratinized mucosa. Okay, so A is not the answer. Recurrent primary herpes. Yes, recurrent primary herpes will have a punctate ulcer in the hard palate. Okay, fever and malaise will be there in the primary, but they have not specified anything about the fever or malaise. Then the secondary, it will also present with the multiple punctate ulcers in the hard palate, but the fever and malaise will not be there. Okay, so the answer is recurrent secondary herpes. Why not erythema multiforme and discoid lupus erythematosus? Is that erythema multiforme, you will have a it's a hypersensitivity reaction occurs in skin and mucosa. It will be as a Steven Johnson syndrome, but here there is no history of drug or hypersensitivity, so erythema multiforme is ruled out. Then discoid lupus erythematosus, it's a chronic lesion. It also involves the oral mucosa but not the hard palate. Again, it will be involving the buccal mucosa, gingiva and the vermilion. It will not occur in the hard palate. So our answer is recurrent secondary herpes. Okay, you cannot confuse with recurrent primary and secondary herpes, because in the secondary herpes, okay, the fever and malaise will not be present. In the primary herpes, fever and malaise will be present. The question doesn't say anything about the fever and malaise. The answer is secondary herpes, recurrent secondary herpes. Next question. A conservative surgical excision would be appropriate treatment and probably curative for which of the following? Nodular fasciitis, fibromatosis, fibrosarcoma, rhabdomyosarcoma, adenoid cystic carcinoma. A conservative surgical excision, that is the terminology. For any malignancy for that matter, conservative surgical excision will not be sufficient. So C, D and E are wrong. You can rule out. So you have to confine to A and B. On seeing two options, nodular fasciitis and fibromatosis, the fibromatosis would not be a correct answer, because they have said they're probably a curative for which of the following. Fibromatosis is highly recurrent rate, it's more. okay, because it's locally aggressive and infiltrative. It is mimicking a fibrosarcoma. Fibromatosis will be mimicking like a fibrosarcoma, locally aggressive and infiltrative. So even if you do an excision, it will not be probably a curative one. Again, the recurrence is going to be there. But the A is the correct answer because the recurrence rate is very rare. Okay, it shows a rapid growth, but it's not infiltrative or aggressive. It's a submucosal proliferation of fibroblast is seen in the nodular fasciitis. So the surgical excision is more than enough for the A option. That is, nodular fasciitis is the correct answer. Next question. On a routine radiographic examination, a well-defined radiolucent lesion was found in the body of the mandible of 17-year-old boy. At the time of operation, it was proved to be an empty cavity, which is the lesion. So in the question, you have to note they have taken a radiograph which shows a radiolucent lesion in the body of the mandible in a 17-year-old boy. 17 means it's a teenager. And also they told at the operation when you enter the cavity it was empty. Okay, it doesn't have anything, no lining or nothing. So we will see the option. Osteoporotic bone marrow will not give you a well-defined lesion. So the A is not the answer. Aneurysmal bone cyst will have a blood-filled cavity. Okay, so they are saying empty. So B is not the answer. Odontogenic keratosis will have a partial lining, a thin lining will be present, that is a parakeratinized one. Okay, static bone cyst will be present in the, it is just a developmental abnormality wherein you will have a salivary gland in that region which is present mostly below the mandibular canal. So it will not be an empty, rather it will have a small amount of salivary gland tissue. So D is not the answer. Traumatic bone cyst, yes, traumatic bone cyst, no, it will be having a empty cavity. It doesn't have any lining or nothing, but the etiology they are saying it is due to a mild trauma in the earlier stages of age. So the answer is traumatic bone cyst. Okay, it also occurs in a teenager, that is the age is also well correlated, and the body of the mandible is the ideal area of traumatic bone cyst. And it doesn't have any lining or something like that. So the answer is traumatic bone cyst. Next question. A 21-year-old woman went to her dentist because of facial asymmetry. This asymmetry has developed gradually over 3 years. The patient has no symptoms. A diffusely opaque lesion was found in the right maxilla. All laboratory tests, complete blood count, alkaline phosphatase, calcium, were in normal limits. A biopsy specimen was interpreted as a fibro-osseous lesion. This patient is more likely to be. So they have told you a diagnosis of fibro-osseous lesion, and they have told you the age. It's an young adult age. Facial asymmetry is found. This was found gradually developed in the year course of 3 years, and no symptom. And the radiograph shows a diffusely opaque lesion, and the blood counts and everything was normal. So we will see the option. Cementoblastoma will not have a diffuse opaque lesion. That term was there in the question. So it will be a circumscribed lesion, cementoblastoma. So the A is not the answer. Fibrous dysplasia is a fibroosseous lesion, but it will not occur in 21-year-old patient. 3 years back they would have developments, it will be in the teenage only. But the fibrous dysplasia will mostly occur in childhood and it will subside after the puberty. So B is not the answer. Cherubism will have a facial asymmetry, and it will all the features whatever has been mentioned is well correlated with cherubism. Cherubism may be the answer. D and C, why not, means osteosarcoma is not the correct answer. Osteosarcoma will have a pain and all the symptom, paresthesia, everything will be present. But here they have said the patient has no symptom. So osteosarcoma is not the right answer. Chronic osteomyelitis will have a lucent lesion, but here they have specified diffusely opaque. So the chronic osteomyelitis will be a radiolucent. So the E is not the answer. The correct answer is C, cherubism. The idiopathic condition in which a destructive inflammatory lesion featuring necrotizing vasculitis are seen in lung, kidney, upper respiratory tract. It is a classical sign of vaginous granulomatosis. because in epidermolysis bullosa, it is in that case you will have a bulla due to a mild trauma also. Patient will develop a bullous lesion. They have not specified anything about the bullous lesion, so the A is not the answer. In Steven Johnson syndrome, it's correlated with the erythema multiforme. Again, it's a hypersensitivity type of lesion. There is no drug history also given here. Okay, that is also a bullous lesion. So the B is not the answer. Sturge-Weber syndrome is a neurocutaneous syndrome, which is a classical triad will be seen, wherein in Sturge-Weber syndrome it will be a facial port nevus and ipsilateral leptomeningeal angiomatosis and glaucoma will be seen. So Sturge-Weber syndrome is not the answer. So D is the answer. Why not E? Secondary syphilis will not have these symptoms. Okay, it will have a mucosal patches, oral mucosal patches, but it will not have these features like lung, kidney, and the respiratory tract vasculitis, necrotizing vasculitis will not be seen in the secondary syphilis. So answer is vaginous granulomatosis. Next question. From the following list, select the jaw lesion and diseases that are characterized microscopically by the presence of conspicuous number of multinucleated giant cells. Choose 4. They have clearly said 4 lesion has to be chosen. So they are saying multinucleated giant cell microscopically in which of the jaw lesion. So central giant cell granuloma, yes, it will be having. And ossifying fibroma will not have. Ossifying fibroma, you will only see a island of radio opaque bone deposition on the fibrous background. Okay, so that is not the answer. Hyper parathyroidism will have a this multinucleated giant cell. C is also right answer. A, C so far is right. Then we will see calcifying epithelial odontogenic tumor. That will have a unusual microscopy. So that's not the answer. Aneurysmal bone cyst will not have these multinucleated giant cell. Okay, and calcifying odonto no aneurysmal bone cyst will have yeah, they have a multinucleated giant cell. Calcifying odontogenic cyst will have a ghost cell, not the giant cell. They may be asking another question like ghost cell is a pathognomonic of, then you have to write it's an calcifying odontogenic cyst. In this question, C is not, F is not the right answer. Then cherubism. Cherubism is also having a multinucleated giant cell. So totally 4 is A, central giant cell granuloma, C, hyperparathyroidism, E, aneurysmal bone cyst, and G, cherubism. Okay, next question. For each clinical feature listed, select the most closely linked disease or lesion from the list provided. So they have one side they have provided the disease and the lesion, and other side they have provided the clinical feature. First we will see the disease. Solitary shallow oval ulcer of the buccal mucosa, bilateral reticular white lines of the buccal mucosa, generalized enlarged of erythematous gingival tissue, solitary nodular mass of a dorsal tongue, darkly colored macule of attached gingiva, fluctuant nodule of the lower lip. These are the disease they have told. Let's see the options for clinical features. Granular cell tumor, leukemia, amalgam tattoo, aphthous ulcer, mucus extravasation phenomenon, and lichen planus. So we will see. Very easy, we will start. Lichen planus, you know, it's a bilateral reticular white lines. Okay, mucus extravasation phenomenon will be in the fluctuant nodule because it's a mucocele. No, it's the mucin is getting out of the duct and getting deposited extraductally, that is in the lower lip. So 5 is F. Aphthous ulcer will have a not as oval shaped ulcer in the buccal mucosa. So aphthous ulcer, A is the right answer. Amalgam tattooing will be closely to the gingiva because of the, when you spill some amalgam and condensation, it will be there like a dark colored macule of the attached gingiva. So amalgam tattooing is E. Then leukemia. Leukemia, you will have a generalized engorgement of erythematous gingival tissue because all these malignant cells will get engorged in the gingival tissues and causing an erythematous feel. So the answer for leukemia is C. Then granular cell tumor is we always have a yellow shaped solitary nodule mass in the dorsum of the tongue. So granular cell tumor answer is D. So next question we will move on. From the following list, select the systemic disease in which patients may develop aphthous ulcer. So we have to see. Celiac sprue, definitely there will be an aphthous ulcer, mine of will be there, and sarcoidosis will not have, because then amyloidosis will not have, Beckett syndrome uh, will have, Conn's disease will have, neurofibromatosis will not have. See, whatever I have left, that is sarcoidosis, amyloidosis and neurofibromatosis, will have a submucosal masses, solitary masses. It will not be an aphthous, it will be a mass of lesion. Okay, it will be a mass of submucosal nodules or masses will be seen, but others like celiac sprue and then Beckett syndrome, Conn's disease, after ulcers are developed. Okay, so the answer is A, D and E. Okay, next question. X-ray beam A is producing 70 peak kilowatt, 7 milliampere and 1.1 second. So this is the feature of beam A. Beam B is producing 70, same amount of peak kilowatt, and when compared to A, it has the higher MA, milliampere, 10 milliampere, and second also it's slightly high, 0.015 seconds. Which of the following statements are true? So choose two they are giving. We have to choose two statements which is true or correct about it. Beam A has high mean energy. See, both have the same mean energy of 70 peak kilowatt. So A is not the answer. B has a higher mean energy. No, again, both have the same peak energy. So peak kilowatt. So A and B is not the answer. Beam B has high number of X-ray photons. So how we can say means X-ray photons will always be determined by milliampere. So which beam is having more milliampere? 10 milliampere is present in beam B. Only 7 milliampere is present in beam A. So the more amount of photons is determined by the milliampere. So beam B will have a high number of X-ray photons. So C is the right answer. Then they have said choose two. So other option will be an correct answer. We will see. So D, no, the mean energy of two beams are equal. That's what we are saying from the starting. So beam energy are determined by the peak kilowatt. So both are having the same kilowatt. So the beam energy for both the beams are equal. Then E. So D is the correct answer. Then we will see why not E is the correct answer. The maximum energy of X-ray photon is higher for beam energy. See, the maximum energy, again they are speaking about energy. Energy both are same. So E is not the answer. So answer is C and D. Okay. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked the video and you have completed 10 MCQs without even turning into pages. And hope you will be excelling in the competitive examination. If you like the channel, kindly subscribe to it and leave a comment about the video. In what way can we modify or what topic you want to be taken and everything. Have a great day. God bless you all. Thank you.